what do we do to be able to help when it's coming with someone that we love who's not doing well, or you find things for illnesses that you want to be able to help with, or you see something wrong in the world and you don't know how to be able to reach people to be able to help them. I should be able to start for another live thing here. So thank you very much for sharing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I feel like a goof because I'm going to leave this book out so that I know to give it to John. And it's great because it's right here on the shelf. I could just grab copies. It's such a goof. But anyway, I'm looking forward to sharing with you 3 poems in what's technically the second round from the new Down in the Dirt book. Dun, dun, dun. I'm looking at it right now. It's called The Darkness Within. This book, as I said, they're named after a writing that's within it, and I think, what image do I have that looks good? And there's this really cool statue that I'm like, that's excellent. But for people who actually get the book, they sent me a copy with like somebody else's work. Go to the cover page. This is from an artist from the 1600s. I have to show it for them. Of a priest or something. It's really hard to see. Oh my God, that's the coolest freaking image. But I mean, like, I can't use it for a cover or anything, but I just thought that was nifty. And I'm like, I have to be able to share it. Copyright laws, I can do that. But I thought that I would look for material and from the back of the book and share with you. And all of these poems happen to be about death somehow, or something terrible. But nobody died for me to write these poems. Really? It's not that bad. I promise, I promise, I promise. Nobody died in the creation of these poems or about these poems. The end. So, people who knew me as the woman that would write women's issues poetry, otherwise I'd be writing about death all the time. One or the other, it would seem. This first one in the book is titled Decorating the Lockers, and you can see I've got show images from it. I might show you one on the screen afterward for you because it'll be bigger, though it's hard when you've got, you know, tiny little shots in black and white to be able to show the images. This is called Decorating the Lockers. Days when we sat in the gold gym. Friday afternoons, hot Indian summer days. Days with a pep assembly. There would be a contest which grade could cheer the loudest. Those were the days when the cheerleaders led us in school spirit, and we'd wish the football team luck in their evening's game. The cheerleaders even decorated the lockers for each football player the night before a game. Streamers. Signs. I think of this now. One of those players went professional, moved across the country, made it big. Had a friend from high school visit. Then they drove out on a road together. Could they still hear the cheering, the screaming, faster and faster down the road? They're winning the big game, faster and faster, and then black. The hero walked away from the twisted, mangled wreck to find his hero couldn't hear the cheering. No one assembles for him now for the loss of his friend. Why did the hero get all the attention? There was no screaming, just the low, dull moan in his head as he ended his own suffering, his own guilt. And we assembled again once more for him, this time not in a sunny Friday afternoon, not anticipating something. The anticipation is gone. All we can cling to are the lockers covered in streamers. The cheering. That was done at a show at a sanctified church. That's not a real story. That was just made up a story, but it was just thank you. But this was a performance I was able to do at St. Paul's Church in North Chicago. It was a desanctified church, and I thought it was double plus cool that I could be in front of these huge, you know, thing and sharing poetry with everybody. So I thought I should be writing stuff about death to be able to share with everyone, I guess. Anywho, but one more from that same show. I don't think anybody dies in this one, but you get the idea that somebody's going to. I have to turn to the page for it. This is titled Wedding Lost. Here's another picture. See, it's so hard to see when I try to show it to you guys. So I'll try to show it on the screen. This is titled Wedding Lost. And she sees herself in the passenger seat at night, her fiancé beside her, and the lights seem all too bright, and the rain seems all too loud, like the thunder of soldiers running across a field to war, swept with the drunken feeling of patriotism. charging toward their unknown enemy. And so it happened that night. The lights got brighter, the car started to spin, and then she started to dream. And she sees herself at the end of the church. The bridesmaids have just walked down the aisle. The music changes for her. She feels swept up in the euphoria of love, and she begins to walk. But she falls, the bouquet falling from her hands, and in slow motion, white roses and lilies scatter along the aisle. And she looks up, and the groom is gone, and the ground is the ashes of the house that they had just bought together after they were married. She sits up, and she's at the desk at the bank, trying to get the loan for the house. His job is secure. We're young. Nothing could go wrong. Good thing he wore the blue tie to the bank and not the red one. And she sees herself waking up from sleep, the oxygen pipe still under her nose. Her husband there, tie in hand, asking if she'd like to hold their baby. But she could have sworn she heard the baby stop crying. And she panics. And then she wakes up. Her head is bobbing, but she's now back at the hospital, looking at the tubes running out of her fiancé's arm.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad you like that one. That was also entirely made up. Sorry, but it was another one from the show. Yeah, nobody died in it, but there's this notion of death, I think, was going throughout this show when I did these two pieces. And that's just a video still from it. But anyway, that was that one. I'm going to read you one more in this round, not from the same show, but another one that's about death. Because that seems to be how I roll. This one is titled Loved You the Most. Gotta find it on my page because I lost my page. This was from the Stop show. This was at an open mic before I took it over. I could show you the picture, but you get the idea. This is titled Loved You the Most. I heard last week that you died. I called your office to ask you a question, and the receptionist had to tell me. Of course, I didn't hear it from your family. Why would they know to call me? They, who don't even know my last name and think that I was a heathen and no good for you. They, tied to you by blood, never knew I wished for that tie to you too. They never knew I put you on a pedestal. They never knew I made you my God. I went to your funeral today. I wore a veil over the brim of my hat and stayed in the back while they lowered your casket into the ground. When everyone was at your gravesite, the minister talked about the ones you left behind, your parents, your brother, your sister. What he didn't know was that you left me behind too, the one that loved you the most. I knew I could never have you in my life, but I needed to know you were alive so I could go on living. And the minister spoke of how your family would miss you. And I thought, what about me? What do I do with nothing to love? There's the picture from it. Nobody died. No, thank you. I just want to keep stressing that because these are all sad death poems. Nobody died, but I did this in a show and somebody's on a pedestal and I got a picture of a guy that I used to date walking in beams. Just decided to walk along a mountainside. He's like, I'm going to go up on this thing and start walking. And I'm like, you're insane. There's no way that I would want to do that. But he was just walking along and this, I'm like, you could just fall. And he was like, no, it's just like, you know, walking along tiles in your kitchen floor. It's not like you're going to fall from that. And I still thought, you're crazy. But then I didn't do all sorts of active things as much as he probably did when I was little.
When you mentioned Chicago, I think years ago when I was out there at a computer show, and then afterwards, we went to one of the developers' apartments, which was on the 103rd story of the whatever it is, the biggest building there.
The Sears Tower? Oh, which is now the Willis Tower? Because they changed the name of it.
It was the Sears Tower.
Uh-huh.
And number one,
That had to
I've
be
never
amazing.
seen whitecaps on a lake before, only in the ocean. And number two, because of the wind, the apartment's shaking. It's going back and forth, and I've never been
To feel
in an
that.
apartment to shook before.
That's
So
moving. That's amazing. I think I mentioned that a little bit when I was looking at high rises in China, and I'm like, they're just moving, or is that just our perception? But we're right on the water, right? So it's the same kind of thing. And I've been up to the top of the Sears Tower before, and I've been on the 95th, the Hancock building, which now is closed down as a restaurant, so you can't go there anymore, which makes me so sad. But anywho, but yeah. Anyway. Those were my things, and none of those were real. Although I could totally feel the emotion, like that was something. You could hear it in my voices, like that it happened. It didn't. It honestly, I'm giving you the press. It's not that bad, really. But it was just a story about that idea about losing someone like that. So I hope you guys appreciated it, and I hope that John is going to read stories. Just so that you know, John, if we wanted to do this, I've got 2 periodic table poems and then another 3-poem thing if we want to go back and forth for a bit, because I like sharing poetry with you, and I'd really love to hear John McMullen. So if you're ready, I would love it if you would take it away.